Hello friends, it's me, and today we're checking out Food Theory. This lemonade could kill you. Panera from the Food Theorists. Together, let's go!
I have seen a video circulating online. Sorry, I can't get myself straight right now. I have seen a video circulating online that says that this lemonade should be illegal. Illegal? I mean, it's lemonade. Lemons are delicious. It's a little bit bitter, a little bit sour. It's great. It is balanced, as all things should be. But illegal? No. Push all of that aside. What they are claiming is that this right here has more caffeine than 4 espressos worth of caffeine. Excuse me. Find that a little hard to believe. It also seems kind of unhealthy. Panera, what are you doing? Are you trying to kill me? It's time we find out.
Hello,
Theory.
Internet. Welcome to Food Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Food Theory!
The only show that gets a buzz from being right. No matter if you're a Chipotle Chad or a Baja Fresh Brad, you're gonna want to pay attention to this one because today we're talking about Panera Bread's newest product, Crack in a Cup. You see, about a month ago, a video was uploaded onto TikTok by a user named Sarah Bouse. In it, she takes 2 minutes to rant about one of Panera's newest menu items, their Mango Yuzu Citrus Lemonade. But this isn't your typical selfie car rant video about restaurant lemonade, my friends. Oh no! This one's a bit unhinged.
I have learned something that should be illegal. 100% should be illegal. So, and it has to do with this drink. Give me a second. So, at Panera. Oh, I cannot get myself straight.
Pretty soon, you start to realize what exactly is going on here.
This is the Mango Yuzu Citrus Charged Lemonade. When I'm sitting there, I'll drink 4 or 5 of these. The regular size has 82 grams of sugar. Let's push that aside. It has 260 milligrams of caffeine. An espresso, I looked it up, has 63 milligrams of caffeine. 63 for 1 shot of espresso.
She's essentially drugged out of her mind on caffeine. Practically leaks through the screen onto your scrolling thumb as she rants. She is literally a real-life version of Tweak from South Park.
I pulled out my hair.
But that's weird, right? A lemonade having over 4 times the amount of caffeine as an espresso? There's no way. I thought this whole thing had to have been a bit. A joke that she was just putting on for the camera to go viral, but no. She was making the video because she legitimately wanted people to know and thought that Panera was breaking the law by not labeling their lemonade accordingly.
I don't have caffeine very much. I thought. I'm not used to caffeine like that, and I feel like the Hulk. Panera, who's gonna create a product with 263 milligrams of caffeine? Look what you're doing. I'm dying.
Also, can I just call out that I love the fact that she finishes this rant with one final slurp? She'd be tripping on that caffeine, but you know she needs to take that final swig. Besides being just pure internet gold, her claims really piqued my theorist interest. In a lot of cases like this, whether it's hot coffee from McDonald's or random car rants about lemonade, our first impulse is to label the person as kind of crazy, or negligent, or a Karen, or whatever.
But if you actually go and do your research about it, she makes some good points.
History has shown that a lot of times these people wind up being right. So, is this a case of one random Panera patron ripping off a local restaurant to be her personal WeWork?
I work at Panera. No, I don't. I work in a Panera because I don't want to pay for a co-working space, but working at home makes me want to dig my own grave because I'm alone.
Or is there something else going on here with Panera actively duping people into mega dosing on caffeine? Is the lemonade actually more caffeinated than the coffee? And if it is Panera doing enough to make that fact clear to its consumers? And lastly, is Sarah in this video literally dying of a caffeine overdose? I think we need to look into all of it. What say you, Sarah?
Whoa, this is gonna be a whirlwind.
So looking at the online nutrition facts for Panera's new line of charged lemonades, we see that they come in 3 flavors: Mango Yuzu Citrus, Strawberry Lemon Mint, and Fuji Apple Cranberry. And yep, as Sarah claims, a single serving comes with 350 calories and a whopping 260 milligrams of caffeine, coming from a combination of coffee extract and guarana extract. So she's definitely right about the amounts, but how much caffeine is that really? And what's that gonna do to your body? Well, the first place to start here is with the science. Most of us understand that caffeine is a neurostimulant and vasodilator, which means that the more you drink, the more your blood vessels are expanding, allowing blood to rush to your brain and limbs. This blood rush causes you to feel more awake. But if you have too much, you start to feel jittery. Now, Sarah says that on a typical day, she's refilling her cup multiple times.
I'll drink 4 or 5 of these, I was always like, man, when I work at Panera, I feel great.
Running the math, she's been consuming a whopping 1,100 to 1,300 milligrams of caffeine a day. A staggering number when you consider that an average cup of coffee contains between 95 and 140 milligrams. In fact, drinking 4 cups of coffee a day qualifies you as a heavy coffee drinker. And yet, here's Sarah, 4 cups a day is a third of the caffeine that she's consuming through this lemonade. Even if you compare her Panera caffeine intake to energy drinks that hinge on giving you, you know, energy, she's still in the artery melting stratosphere. Those drinks typically contain about 110 milligrams of caffeine for an entire can. Basically, Sarah here's chugging like 11 Red Bulls per day, or 6.5 tall Starbucks dark roasts, or 28 cans of Diet Coke. I'm a Diet Coke addict who drinks way too much, and even I can recognize that that is an alarming amount of soda. It's no wonder that she feels so good working at Panera when she's literally being drugged into believing it gives her supercharged work performance. So Sarah's consuming an insane amount of caffeine from these charged lemonades. That much is undeniable. But is Panera acting illegally in any of this? Is Panera negligent in some way? Should they be doing a better job at telling people what's inside of this stuff? Well, let's actually talk about that. I went to my local Panera and took some photos of the charged lemonade area, and immediately you can see that these aren't marketed as energy drinks. Sure, they're named charged lemonades, but what exactly does that mean? Underneath the flavor heading, there's fine print that says it has as much caffeine as the dark roast coffee, but it's small, and you definitely lost my interest as soon as he started the sentence with plant-based and clean. And yeah, there's the nutrition facts below that, but 260 milligrams of caffeine? What's that mean? Is that a lot? A little? It's unclear unless I'm actively taking out my phone and looking up what that amount is. And again, all of this is marketed under the name lemonade. It's not a drink that you normally associated with being infused with so much caffeine that it pops your eyeballs out of your skull. So the labeling could certainly be doing a lot more to communicate that this stuff is the caffeine equivalent of jet fuel, but it's actually the placement of the lemonade that's even more sus. These lemonades are located right next to the soda fountain, not the coffee stand. Sure, soda has caffeine, but not nearly to the level of these lemonades. And perhaps most damning of all, this is historically where the normal, non-caffeinated lemonades have sat for years in the restaurant. I know, because I go to Panera all the time, and I always like trying the new lemonades and teas that sit there. In fact, just like Sarah, before I ever saw her video, I too noticed the new flavors and tried them on a recent visit, thinking that they were just regular lemonades and teas, because it's always been just regular tea and lemonade in that area. Granted, my mind didn't melt through my ears because they always tend to have way too many empty calories and sugar for my taste, so I wasn't chugging like 5 cups of the stuff, but still, I am anecdotal proof that the labeling doesn't make it clear what these things actually are. Overall, there's just something fishy about all of this. Like, why are they hiding the fact that these are caffeinated in some sort of tiny print?
Panera, who's gonna create a product with 263 milligrams of caffeine?
Who's gonna do that, you ask? Well, could it be a company that wants to make sure that you feel great, awake, and energized after every trip to Panera, even if you don't quite understand why? Caffeine does have addictive properties after all, and can lead people to developing a dependence, and people on caffeine are more likely to make impulsive decisions, like buying more stuff from Panera.
Oh, so every single time they go to that place, they'll be feeling, it's great! Every single time.
Also isn't the first time a company has done something like this either. Starbucks Refreshers, probably the main competitor to these lemonades, have come under fire recently for how much caffeine is hidden inside a product that's largely aimed at kids on social media. I mean, when you look at the fun colors and the overall marketing, it's hard to deny who these drinks are made for.
This is my new obsession. I may have a problem.
You do, or at least you might. You may just be secretly getting fed doses of caffeine so you develop a dependence on these drinks and these restaurants that serve them. And mind you, those refreshers contain almost 6 times less caffeine than the lemonade that's being served at Panera. It's kind of like Panera saw an opportunity and decided to go nuclear with the whole thing. So as we've seen, the charged lemonade caffeine threat is real.
Wait, it's all caffeine? Always has been. It's like, what? What?
Seems pretty darn dishonest in its marketing, and it seems like there may just be sinister intentions behind all of it. But is any of it illegal like Sarah initially claimed? The FDA often works in areas where consumer expectations or knowledge don't match the products or how they're marketed, so just what does the FDA have to say about caffeine disclosures? Well, the FDA, as we've talked about in the past, is the organization charged with regulating the labeling requirements for packaged products that you see on grocery store shelves. We know from previous episodes that they care about all kinds of things, like sugar and fat and cholesterol, cholesterol, but do they care about caffeine? Oh, you bet they do, especially since the world's favorite little addiction has been up in the ante in recent years. Americans' love of working late, partying hard, and recording all of it for social media clout has led to a lot of caffeination in order for all of us to stay functional, with the biggest caffeine revolution coming from energy drinks starting in the early 2000s. Red Bull has technically been offering us wings since 1984, but it wasn't until it hit the shelves in the US in the late 90s that it really took off, where it replaced coffee for people who, I don't know, want something that tastes even worse than coffee. Stuff is way too sweet for me, honestly, but it did spawn a huge number of competitors in the market, including famous energy drinks like Rockstar and Monster Energy. The point is, though, that all of these products are labeled as energy drinks first and foremost, both in their branding and in their labeling. For caffeinated beverages, there are two main pieces of information that are contained on that label. First, serving size, caffeine per serving, per container, or both. This also needs to be printed separately from the nutrition facts so people don't mistake it for just another ingredient. Secondly, the label must include a warning statement, not intended or recommended for children, pregnant or breastfeeding women, or those sensitive to caffeine. These are explicit warnings on the cans to help prevent people who shouldn't be drinking a lot of caffeine from drinking it. And it's not enough just to say how much caffeine's in it, you have to explicitly label it as a high caffeine product that certain people should not drink. Look, it's right.
Oh, Matt Pan makes a very good point, because it can be dangerous for some certain individuals at different stage in life. Oh, so this sort of labeling is like a big red flag in front of you to make sure that you pay a notice.
There on every Monster Energy drink. It's not huge, and it's certainly not in the same neon letters, but at least you can find it somewhere on there. So how does any of this apply to Panera? Bizarrely, it doesn't. Those labels that you see on energy drinks aren't exactly an age-old policy, and they're not as required as you might assume. Remember when I mentioned that energy drinks surged in popularity in the late 90s after Red Bull came to the US? Well, in that same time period, there started to be more and more incidents of people ending up in the ER from, you guessed it, caffeine overdose side effects. And I don't mean side effects like, oh, I had too much caffeine and energetically danced my way off a cliff. I mean seizures, liver and kidney injury, heart arrhythmia, psychotic symptoms. From 2005 to 2011, ER visits related to caffeine side effects increased tenfold, according to the Journal of Caffeine Research from 2013. Was it all just the result of energy drinks? No. There were also companies at the time that were marketing just straight caffeine powder unregulated as a dietary supplement, which, whoa. I mean, I joke about having an IV of Diet Coke strapped permanently into my arm, but even my caffeine-addled brain can't get behind that one. The FDA didn't take kindly to that one either, and so they cracked down on high caffeine products in 2015 with a warning letter. That's right, not a law, just a strongly worded email. The FDA, for as much as we think of them as this almighty organization smiting food companies down with its ban hammer of government cheese, are actually people who stay out of the issues for as long as they possibly can. Instead of hitting companies over the head with rules that'll likely lead to a lot of litigation, a lot of backlash, and possibly a huge amount of money spent on fighting with said companies, the FDA often opts for more of a come-to-Jesus moment in the form of warning letters, basically telling companies that if they don't get their act together, they're all gonna be in big trouble, mister. So with caffeine-related health issues on the rise and the FDA getting ready to pounce, American caffeine producers got together and decided to shape up as little as they possibly could. They recognized that in dietary supplements and energy drinks, no one understood how much caffeine they were consuming and what it could do to them. So the American Beverage Association, a group of all the major US beverage companies, started including high caffeine warning labels that you see on all the energy drinks.
Oh, so it's like so that the laymen, the random regular individuals can just understand it. Good for you. Thank you.
The actual FDA regulations, though, they end with just including the amount of caffeine in a beverage, nothing else. Those warning labels, they aren't there because of a law, they're there because PepsiCo, Snapple, Coke, Monster, Red Bull, and Rockstar have collectively agreed to play nice in order to avoid future issues and future lawsuits. Well, that might sound like a bunch of companies just doing the bare minimum and only making changes because they want to avoid big smackdown lawsuits. I'm here to say, yeah, that's basically what's happening. But it's still better than what's happening down at your local Panera. You see, while calorie disclosures are typically required at chain or quick-serve restaurants like Panera, caffeine labeling is not. You can probably just tell this intuitively. When you walk into a McDonald's, you don't see the caffeine content of each soda listed above its spot in the soda fountain. This is because there's no requirement about caffeine labeling, and the jury's still out about how restaurants should disclose that kind of information. There are some cases that have been made recently, especially outside of the US, that foods in restaurants like McDonald's should be labeled if they contain caffeine, but all that would require is a small label that says contains caffeine. No amounts, no serving sizes, no warnings. This is because more and more companies are sneaking caffeine or energy-boosting products into food. Everything from Kashi granola bars to yogurt. Because guess what? After you eat it, you feel inexplicably great.
Man, when I work at Panera, I feel great. I feel awesome. I get so much done.
And the next time you want to throw it away again, you'll buy it again. You'll eat it again. But if you don't know what's happening, you don't know that actually you're just being manipulated by micro doses of caffeine. As manufacturers are sneaking energy-boosting supplements into their regular products, like, I don't know, putting caffeine into a beverage that you would never expect to have caffeine, more and more people are consuming caffeine without being aware of what that actually means. Speaking of not knowing what it means, let's go back to that charged lemonade label at Panera. It has the calories, which has been required to appear since 2018, and it has the caffeine, like we talked about before. What a conscientious citizen Panera is, right? No. Well, it looks like Panera is going above and beyond by including this. You can view this little hanging tag as a tiny handwritten lawsuit shield. By explicitly labeling the caffeine in these drinks, even if no one understands what it actually means, Panera can attempt to avoid a lawsuit claiming that patrons didn't know how much caffeine they were drinking. I mean, look, it's right there. It's right on the front of the thing that they're filling up their cup with. What they're not making explicitly clear is that the amount of caffeine in one serving of this lemonade, if you can even call it that, is the equivalent of 3 servings of Monster energy drink. And that's talking about the small size. The large is equivalent to 4.5 servings, which is more than 2 full cans of Monster. Every Monster energy drink comes with a warning, but the Panera Lemonade just comes with a free refill sign. It's also notable that the large size here contains 390 milligrams of caffeine. That number, I suspect, is very specifically chosen. The FDA states that for adults, 400 milligrams of caffeine is the maximum amount recommended to drink in an entire day before you start seeing negative side effects. And Panera has conveniently shimmied right in under that limbo stick with 390 milligrams of caffeine in their lemonade. This way, if a patron dies of a caffeine overdose and their family comes back to sue the restaurant, Panera can point to the fact that their serving size is within the FDA recommended limits on caffeine and that the product was labeled in the restaurant. Truly, Panera is living up to its motto, food as it should be, to avoid federal litigation. But I mean, how big of a problem is this really? Even if people really overdo it on the caffeine, are they risking something more than just some temporary illness? Well, yeah, actually, very much so. We've already talked about the long history of caffeine side effects going back to the early 2000s, but if 25 years of data isn't enough, let's look at where it becomes life and death. According to the FDA, toxic effects related to caffeine, like seizures, can appear with the consumption of around 1,200 milligrams, the amount that we know Sarah from TikTok is drinking. But that's talking about a fully grown, healthy adult with no medical conditions. And by medical conditions, I'm not just talking about something serious like chronic heart disease, I mean the medical condition of being under 18, being pregnant, having diabetes. I mean, the list goes on. Perfectly healthy, normal people with no existing conditions can literally die of caffeine overdose. In 2011, a 14-year-old girl with a heart condition known as mitral valve prolapse died after consuming 2 Monster energy drinks in 24 hours. That's 480 milligrams of caffeine, the same amount of caffeine that's in just over 1 large Panera lemonade. In another case, a 16-year-old male with no known medical conditions died after consuming a McDonald's latte, a Mountain Dew, and an unnamed energy drink in 2 hours, 2 of which wouldn't have been labeled as containing high levels of caffeine. At the end of the day, the public doesn't think of caffeine as a health risk because the vast majority of us still associate it with a couple cups of coffee in the morning, or a bottle of Coke here and there. But the fact is, it's almost everywhere, and there's more of it around than ever before. It's not required that it be labeled, or that restaurants put warnings on products that contain a lot of it, but they should do it anyway, and we as consumers should start demanding it. Whether we want to admit it or not, caffeine is a drug, and it's a drug that's being fed to us more and more without our knowledge. In the meantime,
My pet makes a very good point. He makes a very good point. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Prevention is better than cure.
Meantime, while we're still waiting for better labels and warnings on caffeine, what can we do? Well, here's my contribution. It's a little practical life tip time from food theory. So you ready for this one? If you take nothing else away from this episode, take this from someone who's absolutely not a doctor, is just a guy on the internet who offers you no medical advice whatsoever. Caffeine in a can of Coke, 34 milligrams. Caffeine in a cup of coffee, about 95 to 110 on the high end. Energy drinks, 85 milligrams per serving, but you're looking at least 160 milligrams for the entire can. So what's my personal rule of thumb here? Double digits of milligrams, pretty average. 100 to 200, it's pretty high. Like, don't be doubling or tripling up on those things. Scientifically, your heart might start getting cranky. 200, 300, back away slowly, my friends, because we're entering into Panera territory. The Panera-tory. And the next time you see some sneaky caffeine working its way into a food product without anyone's knowledge, go ahead, make a car rant video. You'll be doing us all a public service. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. By the way, if you're looking for a more lighthearted episode about Panera where I try to make myself a pair of bread gloves. You heard that right. Gloves made out of bread. Does it work? Does it not? Guarantee you it's embarrassing. That video's over on the left. Or if you want to see some of the positive effects of caffeine, specifically how it gave way to the greatest scientific advances that humankind has ever made, that video's on the right. Everything is always a double-edged sword, my friends. Anyway, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe out there. Make sure you're reading your food labels, and I'll see you all next week.
Well, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you find this video quite interesting to watch. A lot of educational and research knowledge. Yeah. Thank you, MadPat. Yes. And thank you so much to the team behind these videos. You guys did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. What is the comment section saying about this video though? Yeah, my Wi-Fi is... Come on. Please. Come on. Work with me, please, work with me. Refresh the page. Come on, work with me. No, I don't. Come on, don't do this. My Wi-Fi is dead. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is down. Gosh. Well, yeah, let's not drag it too long. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to subscribe, and I hope to see you on my next video. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much. Is it still loading?